Alright, now I've got all my sanding done. This week I'm going to show you the next step in weathering, and that is black grease paint. We aren't going to war, but we need to make sure we get plenty of excess grease on the machine. If you ever look at pictures of real excavators or whatever, you notice that in these pin locations and whatnot, there seems to be a lot of just grease that squirts out. And there is, just because when you grease the pins, often whoever's greasing them doesn't wipe away all the excess grease that squirts out in these areas and up here and there and whatever. So what you're going to need is you're going to need a really small paintbrush. I already used this one. It doesn't have to be a really nice brush, but it has to be pretty small. Here's my finger. Yeah, idea, I've got small fingers too. But and the other thing you're going to need is some flat black. This is really cheap paint, but it does the trick. So make sure it's flat black. I prefer to use that. Just dry grease looks better in flat black than gloss, unless you want the look of wet grease. Well, anyway, you dip your paintbrush in there and then kind of dab out your paintbrush until you get it kind of a light footprint look there. And then you can just come in here, just kind of daintily apply it. Make sure you don't get any of it on the actual chrome part of cylinders and whatnot. Let's get some grease in there. On and around pin locations. And you don't have to be, if you get too much on there with this kind of paint, you just kind of wipe it off a little bit there. Like so, if you get a little too much on there. Kind of like that. And then if you want, you can just go ahead and reuse some of this paint down here. Another good place to do it is at the end of the cylinders, like this one right here. Just kind of bring it up like so, just away from the end of the cylinder sleeve, and just kind of bring the grease up real lightly. Start it really thick at the bottom and then just kind of slowly bring it up. And then that way it looks like, I don't know, that's how it works in the real world. So, make it as realistic as possible. That's how you want to make that cylinder look. Go ahead and finish this cylinder here. For the most part, you can do this with all cylinders. So I kind of overdid a little bit. That's what the cylinder should look like when you're all done. I like that. Just gives it that little extra look to it. Then you can also do fuel areas, because somebody's probably spilled fuel on this machine at some point in its life. Go ahead and take our glob of paint here. Here's our fuel fill. Make sure it gets on the cap there, and maybe give it a little dribble down the side of the machine there. And this machine's fairly new, so just a little bit. I mean, you probably can't even see that, but easy does it with a lot of weathering, especially on newer models, if you want it to give it that newer look. And you got to do some weathering to make it look realistic, but you don't want to overdo it either. So there we go. And then on Dozers, some other things I'm going to do. Like with this dozer, what I'm going to plan to do is on the back here, we're going to plan to make it look like we've had some drippings that have come out of the back here. So we take a really dried out brush, some dried out paint, and just do that. I mean, you probably can barely see what I did there, but like I keep saying, it's easy does it on a lot of this. And you can put some grease in there near the final, around the final dries and whatnot. Just slowly work it in there. And I'll mix in some brown with that to give it some more. Look, and then we got our fuel tank back there. Since it's a dozer, we've had a bad operator, we'll spill some fuel. like I said, if it ever gets too much, you can just wipe it off like that. So that's kind of how grease goes. Make sure you grease all your cylinders and pins. I mean, even these on the Dozer blade, you'll do them the same as I did on my 300. And then another place that you can work on is the exhaust. I'll go ahead and show you what I do for those. Mostly just chrome ones. Black ones you don't have to worry about so much. These bright shiny chrome ones, what you want to do is take a nice heavy glob, fill in the center. That's mostly just so it looks like it has depth. And get rid of all the rest on your brush, your piece of paper. You can see how many times I've dabbed it already just for this little bit. And then just kind of slowly work it back off the tip of the exhaust. Just so you get that little bit of black look and takes away a lot of the shininess. I mean, it's kind of hard to tell, but you can sort of see what I've done there on the exhaust. All of it's just to look realistic. The best thing to do if you're kind of new at weathering is just to go ahead and look at a picture of a real machine and then model it after that. So anyway, that's all for this time. Next time I'm probably going to be I'm going to have to show you how to do silver paint, what we do with that, and that's all for now, guys. Thanks for watching.